think this is now a complete different presentation, but Jürgen's one was at least a good introduction for me because it was talking about project successful collaboration between the industry and research partners. And basically I want to present Erasmus Plus, which is a new funding scheme based on the previous Erasmus program, and it's strongly towards collaboration between industry and universities. First, quick introduction, who am I? I'm basically, as Andreas already said before, I'm a consultant and project manager. I was working with Andreas before with RTD services. Now I've got my own company. I have a background in food and biotechnology, so I do understand the science part, but honestly I was never good enough in the science part to do the science itself. So I focus on the research project management, did a lot of FP6, FP7, Horizon 2020 now, and I've discovered basically last year that Erasmus Plus is a very interesting area, also for project managers and for companies and for the universities, beyond actually what people associate with Erasmus. So Erasmus Plus was funded basically, or started in 2014, it will run to 2020. It is kind of linked to some activities from Horizon 2020, but it is a separate program. So it's not linked to Horizon 2020, it's not using the same budget, it's a different one. And it's basically a result of merging several other funding programs which ran from 2007 to 2013. So some of you might know one or the other funding program which was there before, like the Lifelong Learning Program, and the Erasmus Mundus programs, Tempus program and so on, and they all feed into or fed into this new Erasmus Plus program. Parts of it you can find still in Horizon 2020, like the Marie Curie actions, but a lot of it ended up now in Erasmus Plus, and it's actually a new structure, so that's why a lot of people actually get confused or got lost with it, because they're completely new names, completely new funding programs, and those terms which we were familiar with from this previous funding programs, they do not exist anymore in Erasmus Plus. So I thought it's a good idea to present Erasmus Plus a little bit and to show you that actually it's a very interesting funding program. It's already quite overloaded with applications, but actually the quality still lacks in those applications. So even there are several hundreds of applications always, with quality project you have very good chances of receiving funding in there, because it's not as professional at the moment, the applications, as it is for example in Horizon 2020. Because in Horizon we see there are a lot of consultants there are a lot of project managers there, the companies itself and the universities have a lot of experience and delivering very high quality projects, but this is not necessarily the case in Erasmus Plus, to be honest. What people usually associate with Erasmus is the students exchange, or maybe the exchange of staff from universities or maybe from companies, and usually it's considered less interesting for industry partners or for collaboration with industries. But Erasmus Plus has so much more to offer than this. And when we look at the structuring, how Erasmus Plus is structured, it's basically around 3 key activities, 3 key actions. There's still the key action 1 is still what we generally associate with Erasmus. It's the learning mobility of individuals. But then especially key action 2 is very interesting, and that deals with the cooperation for innovation and the exchange of good practice. So this is where really research partners, where universities can collaborate with industry and receive funding for that. And the third one is support for policy reforms. It's less interesting, so I will mainly focus on key action 2, because that's where I see most of the benefit for the people who are here. Still a quick one for this first key action, learning mobility of individuals, still the usual Erasmus stuff, so mobility of learners and staff. There's this Erasmus Mundus Joint Master Degree, and there's this Erasmus Plus Master Degree loans. So those 3 funding schemes are still there. This is basically what was also there in previous Erasmus programs, where individuals are supported with finances for exchange, for going abroad, for working somewhere else, also for professors and teachers to get new skills which are required for their jobs. This joint master degree, where they focus on this high-level integrated international study programs which deliver this full degree scholarships. So not too interesting for me, to be honest, but it's also interesting for universities. And the last one as well, this master degree launch, which I have nothing to do with that one, to be honest. I have no experience on this one. The ones where I have experience and where I saw a really big benefit for a lot of partners is the key action 2, and that's the cooperation for innovation and for this exchange of good practices. And there are mainly those 4 funding schemes, which also have a different focus, all of them, but which are very interesting and cover actually a lot of activities which can be very interesting for you. There's the strategic partnership, there's the knowledge alliances, there's the sector skills alliances, and there's the capacity building. And I've submitted proposals so far for the strategic partnerships, for the knowledge alliances, and for the capacity building. I have no experience so far with the sector skills alliances, but the sector skills alliances, from the way it is funded, is quite similar to the knowledge alliances. And all of this you have to think that it started in 2014, so there's still a lot of, how to say, like underdeveloped knowledge. So they set up the rules, but there are a lot of things which are still not quite clear on it. They've developed some rules, but the agency itself has absolutely no experience of actually implementing those projects, because those projects just started. The first one started end of last year. I have one knowledge alliance at the moment, which started in January, and we see now when we have coordinator meetings in Brussels that the agency has actually absolutely no idea how they really want to implement it. There are a lot of tools not available, so there's still a lot of information which I present now, which is the general information, so that's the information out there, but that might still change in the next years. When we look at the first one, the strategic partnerships, I submitted 2 this year. Those are activities for strengthening the collaboration between organizations to exchange knowledge. Those are quite limited projects, which about 150,000 euros funding per year. So they are small ones. They are there for exchanging innovative practices, for any activities for the recognition and validation of knowledge, skills and competences, and also for collaboration between regional authorities. The activities that typically are supported there, and which I also saw in my projects, which people want to do, was typically developing courses, developing training, developing anything that has a new, innovative approach to teaching, but always very limited. So you do not develop a whole curriculum, for example, like a huge one, but smaller, limited, focused activities, which focus on a certain area, for example, a certain industry, or certain training. And the main aspect of those projects is to create this intellectual output. So they want you really to create a course, they want you to create a related training material, they want you to create or adapt certain tools for it. So it's a limited approach, it's not a huge one. And what we, for example, did in here was, for one project, they wanted to make sure that the education, the health area for students is more attractive for the students and is closer to industry. So they were basically developing so-called competency profiles, so they let the industry decide what would be the profile of an ideal employee, and then basically got a training program for it, set up tools for it, invited the students to workshops to show them actually this is what we're expecting from you when you start working for our organization, and then basically they could evaluate if the skills they've already acquired during their education, if they are good enough already, or if they need any further education. So they could decide basically themselves how much further education they would need to especially become a successful employee of this organization, which benefits for both. On the one hand, the industry or the pharmaceutical industry gets employees which have skills which they really need, so they have a lower time for those employees to be successful and to be useful for them. On the other hand, for the students, to improve their employability, obviously, because they have exactly those skills which the industry needs. Obviously, you can't invite all the companies there, but at least for a certain focus number of companies, those skills you have in there, those required skills. Like I said, small projects, it's usually 3 partners from 3 program countries. Program countries in this case means it's the partner countries, also the member countries from the European Union. And then also partner countries, so partner countries is basically the rest of the world. And those partners in these projects, they should be somehow involved in training activities. So this could be university partners, this could be any training organization. So we've also seen private training organizations that provide training to a broad spectrum of people who are actually eligible to participate in this sort of projects. Those projects usually take 2 to 3 years, have a maximum of 150,000 euros funding per year. In there you have actually very specific funding rules. They are very different from the funding rules from Horizon 2020, which you're probably used to. You get here management costs paid from the agency. This depends on the duration, so it's a certain rate, let's say 500 euros per month per partner in there. Additionally, you get travel costs, which are based on the distance you travel. You get money for dissemination meetings. You get money for personal costs. Personal costs are reimbursed not on an actual cost basis, but based on a flat or on unit costs. And those unit costs depend on the activity you perform and on the country where you're from. So basically, you have to split between management costs, teacher training costs, you have admin costs, and you have technician costs. And this can be actually one person, for example. In the morning, you start working, you do some admin work. In the afternoon, you have a management meeting, then you charge to management. And later at night, you do some curriculum development, which then is charged on the teacher and training activities. So it doesn't necessarily have to be 3 people charging in the 3 categories. It can be also 1 person charging under those 3 categories, which makes it actually quite challenging for the timekeeping, because you have to do timesheets according to those activities. There's quite a new challenge in there. And additionally, they also fund under this funding scheme, they fund a mobility for staff and students, again based on the distance they travel. Application is actually on a national level, so you're not applying to Brussels, you're applying here on a national level, but still it's the international consortium, and the funding then comes from this national level. We applied, for example, to the Medical University in Vienna, obviously, to the respective national agency. I think I've already described the example here. So really, this is quite focused, leaves a lot of freedom to you, but with 150,000 euros per year, you can expect it's not too much you can do. It's quite a focused project. The next one I want to present is the Knowledge Alliances. It's a very interesting one. I have a running Knowledge Alliance which started in January this year. And here you go for a collaboration between higher education institutes and actually enterprises. So when you're looking for something where enterprises and universities can collaborate, then actually this Knowledge Alliance is a very, very interesting funding scheme for you, because this one funds basically collaboration between those, the exchange of knowledge, the creation of new innovative and multidisciplinary approaches, and a very big focus here is obviously on entrepreneurship. The consortium in here has to be also transnational, and here you have to involve 6 independent organizations from at least 3 partner countries, and here clearly you need education institutes and at least 2 companies. And what we saw, what is very interesting also to involve those kind of multiplier organizations. We involved associations, for example, industry associations where several industry partners are, but also on the other hand for the teachers and professors at the university, which basically do internships in the industry to get a broader knowledge on the real needs of the industry, which they can basically then teach to the students. What we do there is basically we start with collecting all the needs which are there. We're doing also our own needs analysis, and then basically feed that into those 2 streams in the food science program and in the CPD program. And in the end, we'd like to have all this then centralized in this food STA center. So we're trying to establish this legal entity where all partners will have a part in there, and we would like to see basically training organizations, learners, the agri-food chain, industry and so on merged into this one organization. We want to have local contact points in different countries, and basically merge all our outputs, which will be curriculum, which will be training courses, which will be training material, which will be online training in this Food Star Center. And then basically there in this Food Star Center provided, but on the other hand also provided basis for the collaboration between industry and universities, do further needs analysis, do further needs collection, and basically give the opportunity to further develop also the training with there. And this is basically then our sustainability program.